Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the precious time you have in here. Now we would like to start our webinar today. We apologize for the technical issue that we just got that make us have a delay. So this issue is very interesting, rural development during COVID-19 pandemic. What makes it very important because it's very timely, and then how it impacted not only in urban centers, but also in rural areas. So we would like to invite the head of Financial Education and Training Agency before we go to our speakers today to have an opening remarks. Please welcome Bapak Rionald Silaban.
Okay, thank you, Rido, and good morning to everyone. Welcome to webinar on rural development during COVID-19 pandemic. This webinar is held as one of the events in the 5th Dies Natalis of PKN, which also emphasizes that PKN as an academic institution has concern and alignment on rural issues. It is an honor to speak with you today as the Chair of Finance Education and Training Agency and representative of Ministry of Finance of the Republic of Indonesia. Today, we are so fortunate to be able to obtain understanding on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic related to the rural development from South Korean and Indonesian perspective, which will be presented by Professor Sojin Kwang from Gachon University, and also Professor Gunawan Sumodiningrat from Gadjah Mada University. Whereas the Secretary General of the Ministry of Villages, Development of Disadvantaged Region and Transmigration, Pak Anwar Sanusi, Ph.D., will perfect our discussions by sharing his experience from the perspective of the government. Rural development has taken a number of immediate action to help rural residents, businesses, and communities affected by the COVID-19 outbreak. In the awareness to make development in favor of villages, the government of Indonesia has affirmed its commitment of building Indonesia from the periphery by strengthening regions and villages within the framework of a unitary state. This concept is further operationalized by our government in the Village Fund program, which has been implemented for about 6 years and has now become one of the pillars of national economic development policy. For us, the village is not only an asset, but also a hope for the future of our children and grandchildren. The village has its own characteristic, local wisdom, custom in it which rests on cultural roots. So the village must be positioned as the front line of development. We must be able to ensure that the village can be a central point of resilience to the COVID-19 pandemic disaster, as well as the driver for the recovery of the national economy after the COVID-19 pandemic. With that, I would like to open this webinar. And again, as the representative of Ministry of Finance, we would like to say happy webinar and happy learning. Thank you very much. And I would like to give it back to Pak Rido. Thank you, Pak Rido.
Thank you, Bapak Rionald Silaban, the head of Financial Education and Training Agency in Indonesia Ministry of Finance. Now, we would like to jump into our discussions about the rural development during COVID-19 pandemic. We have 3 capable as well as expertise in this issue, and then we would like to have the discussion from different perspectives, not only from academic perspective, but also from the government perspective, and bringing it to different level, which is international level. We will also bring the discussion into the South Korea experience in handling this pandemic, especially how the rural development is going still on the facing or against the pandemic issue. Now, I'd like to deliver or introducing to you about the issue. Well, when the pandemic strike or is still striking global wide, Most conversations are focused on how people lost their jobs in urban centers, and also economic recession, how factories are closed, how big companies are dying. Nonetheless, not enough spotlight is directed to the rural as well as the residents. The question still remaining: how does the protocols are implemented there? How how does rural or villages in Indonesia and South Korea impacted or not impacted by this pandemic? And what are the challenges or maybe opportunities in rural development during or post pandemic of COVID-19? And as well, we also have some questions and more questions. For example, what measures the government, including Indonesian government and South Korea government, should take in responding to the new challenges, and also when we are facing the new normal. So those are some questions that we might have in our mind. Then what makes our discussion will be more valuable, because we have three speakers that can combine all the perspectives, which is we have Professor Gunawan will bring us the perspective of academic point of view, of his expertise in this area. And we also have Pak Sekretaris Jenderal, the General Secretary of Ministry of Village Development of Disadvantaged Region and Transmigration, Mr. Anwar Sanusi, to bring us the perspective from the government side on the rural development during the pandemic. And not only that, we will bring this to South Korea experience, which is from will be delivered from Professor Sojin Kwang, who has more experiences, not only in an academic perspective, but also from the perspective of the government itself. So for today, we would like to have three consecutive speakers. For each speakers that we will give 30 minutes. And then the first speaker will be Mr. Anwar Sanusi, Bapak General Secretary, the General Secretary, and will be continued by Professor Gunawan Sumodiningrat. And then will be the last but not least, Professor Sojin Kwang will be the last speaker of the session, and also to wrap up our discussion as well. So for the first discussion, I would like to give the chance, the opportunity for Bapak Anwar Sanusi. I would like to read you or about Bapak Anwar Sanusi, but it might give us another 30 minutes. So I will just shorten it up into 2 minutes. So Bapak Anwar Sanusi graduated from Social and Political Science of Gadjah Mada University. He pursued his master's degree and his doctoral degree in National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies, or GRIPS, from Saitama University, Japan. And then he also has a position of doctoral director, and currently has, that's in 2015, through a highly competitive open recruitment system, Pak Anwar Sanusi competed to become the General Secretary of Indonesia Minister of Village Development of Disadvantaged Region and Transmigration. So I would like to give the opportunity to Bapak Anwar Sanusi. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bapak Anwar Sanusi.
Thank you, Mas Rido. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning, and then also annyeonghaseyo. I think it's my great honors to share about this issue today in front of the most respected person, especially Pak Rio, and then also my professor, Pak Professor Gunawan Sumodiningrat, and also my guest speaker from Koreans. Thank you very much, for introduce me, Pak Rido. I think too much. I am only the ordinary ones that know maybe has opportunity to be the Secretary General, the Ministry of Villages and Disadvantaged Region and Transmigration. within about 30 minutes, or maybe it's less than 30 minutes, I would like to share about rural development during COVID pandemic 19, yeah, from the Indonesian perspective. I think Pak Rio already introduced about the importance of the village position under this national development landscape. This is, I think, maybe talking about the villages. In the previous, we always has a negative connotation with the backwards, underdeveloped, it is high poverty, and then also less educated, etc. However, since 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago, a government already introduced, already implemented a new law that we call it by the law number 6, 2014, about the village law. This village provide a great opportunity to villages to transform themselves and then also the position of government is a fully support about this policy by providing that we call it as a village funding. The village funding within the 5.5 years, the village funding already transferred into the village is more than 300 trillion rupiah. It is a big money. So I means each villages is receive every year is about maybe 8 to more than 1 billion rupiah. It is a big opportunity for the villages to transform themselves into from the underdeveloped to the developed of the villages. However, as we know, since the COVID-19 strike for the all entire nation in the world, and as we call it as the pandemics COVID-19, all of nation had impacted, including also of the villages. There is at least maybe there are the impact of the pandemic COVID is touching into three issues. One is concerning about the health, and then second concerning about the economics, and then third about concerning about the social activities on the villages. On maybe on health, yeah, we have like since the president Pak Jokowi announced about the 2% of 2 Indonesian persons affected the virus COVID-19 on 3rd March 2019. The Ministry of Villages, we already prepare. Actually, we discuss about how the village can have like the immunes, especially in order to prevent from the striking of the COVID-19. So we introduce such the policy, yeah. The policy we call it as the policy of COVID-19 in responsive village, and then also we circular of the Ministry of Village Development, Disadvantaged Development Region and Transmigration number 8 2020. Basically for the principle of the how to build the immunity of the villages in preventing of COVID-19. First, we develop of the village volunteers against COVID-19. Village volunteers against COVID-19 is in carrying out its activities using the principle of mutual cooperation that involve to support of the villages. This is the main principle of, or maybe the main values of Indonesian people. As in Indonesian, we call it as a gotong royong. Maybe in Korean, we call it as a semaul undong. This principle is that if the people has the problem, they usually cooperate each other to solve its problem. So this why we use the name as like volunteers, not like maybe a special task force, etc. Because the volunteers, the structure of the volunteers, against village against COVID-19, actually this combination between like the state, the village apparatus that heading by the village head, and then also as a vice chairman is the village, the head of the, or the chairman of the village consultative council, or VCC. In Indonesia, we call it as Badan Perwakilan Desa. So that's its combination, and the members is all of the the actors and the villages. Maybe is for instance is village officials, and then also the PPT members, village head or equivalent, and then ketua RT, and then all citizen chief, and then also maybe companion of the family hope program PKK, and then also healthy village companions, Bedan Desa, village midwife, etc. So that's we try to invite all of the like the representative of villagers. So we by this we try to give a strong message. The COVID-19 is our common problem. So in order to solve this problem, so we have to make union. You have to be united to prevent of COVID-19. And then afterwards, we also issue some, we call it as a village COVID-19 prevention protocols. Actually, we just like adopt these protocols is from the concept that already issued by the Ministry of Health, and then also by the International Organization of Health, WHO. So from the village COVID-19 prevention protocols, we like providing some guidance. For instance, is providing education to the public regarding COVID-19. COVID-19 is different with others, with others diseases. But some people we know in the beginning of COVID-19 spreading in Indonesia, there is some people try to isolate it. And then for the people who knows that already infected by COVID-19, this is a big problem, because by doing this one, we cannot monitoring about like the interaction of them to the people. And then also the second activities, we collecting data on people who are vulnerable to illness, is we call it as low immune. For instance, that the people that already has the we call it as degenerative diseases like heart attacks, and then diabetes, etc. And then also we preparing COVID-19 isolation room in the villages. This is we call it as the communal isolation room in the villages. Why? We have to be prepared, because in the villages, most of the people, of course, sometimes they have the big room, but they make the big house, but the room is very limited. So that's why we asking for this such condition. Village can use the village funding in making and developing the isolation room in the villages. And then others activities, but the most important thing that we have to educate the people, especially the villages people, in about is COVID-19, and then how to prevent, and then if maybe already some people already infected, what the action that should be taken. So that's why we also providing for the each villages, like village guard post jaga desa, that 24 hours operating this post jaga desa, village guards post. Because ladies and gentlemen, when the when the COVID-19 striking in the world, we are incidentally also the same time the people of the majority of the people of Indonesia, the Muslim people, did the doings the Ramadan, and then after Ramadan, they have like the big mobilization of the people, especially we call it as mudik. They're going back to the villages as maybe sometimes is to be like a ritual. This is also is too big, like the big problem if we cannot manage it, because most of the people who coming back to the villages, the people that's already that's working in the big city, that most of the big city already infected like the COVID-19. So that's why we have to propose like the isolation, and then also village guard post. The village guard post, there are at least maybe 4 activities of the village guard post 24 hours. Pos jaga desa 24 jam. One is collecting data and checking of information case ID. And then second is collecting data and examining the health condition of incoming and outgoing village resident. And then third is collecting data and examining the returning village migrants, and then also recommendation returning village migrant or unhealthy villagers to self-quarantine. So this is, I think, in doing like all the activities, the villages can use the village funding. And then when some people knows that maybe as we call it is not positive, as like we still on categories as PDP, pasien dalam pengawasan. So we recommend to do self quarantine. And by on the self quarantines, we can invite like the bidans and then also medical personnel and regional and regency COVID-19 task force to handling the quarantines village residents. This is like the first impact, yeah. And then also I in one that issue on health issue, according like the isolation place. The isolation place can be located, yeah, in school, worship places, village hall, and selected houses. Because it means that the communal, the isolation place, or maybe is ruang isolasi bersama, it can be used from maybe in school, because school, all of the school is doing studying from home, so we can use school as one option in for to be like isolation place. And then also like a village hall, a balai desa. And then also isolation place can be used for the people in monitoring protocol. And then also ensuring the availability of restroom and bedroom, and then also electricity and clean water supply. Of course, if maybe we use like the school, we need like some more like adjustment. So this is also can be using from the village funding for the adjustment of the from the public facilities when we use to its isolation places. And then second is about like the impact of economic security for the poor people. So we government introduced like we call it as village fund direct cash assistant, or maybe we call it as BLT dana desa. This is like actually is a cash assistant is maybe is we same definition as social security supporting. So mainly, basically, yeah, the village funding is cannot use for the direct cash assistance. However, due to of the severe of the COVID-19, so government president instruct that village funding can be used for BLT dana desa. So we call it as bantuan langsung tunai dana desa. Who will be the recipient of BLT? Yeah. BLT is for the poor economic family that not receive of PKH. PKH is program keluarga harapan, and then also not receive cash food assistance bantuan pangan non tunai, and not register in pre-work card program kartu prakerja, and then also bansos bantuan sosial tunai from the Ministry of Social Affairs. So, and then second, that has lost their job. So we categorize as a new poor of the people, the poverty due to of the loss of their job. And then also not recorded in government data, exclusion error, and have a family member who has a chronic diseases, such as diabetes, stroke, etc. And then how to collect the data. So we introduce the data should coming from the bottom. So that's why the collection data is coming from the lowest level of the society organization that we call it RT. So data collection basis is in grassroots and village level with reference to DTKS, Data Terpadu Kesejahteraan Sosial, Integrated Social Welfare. And then afterwards, village deliberation specifically for validation, validasi, and finalization, and determination of recipients of BLT seen by the village of head, and validation by the regency or mayor or sub-district head that no later than 5 working days. This is the way how we collect the data, because of course maybe it's not the easy job to find who will get the benefit or who has the right to receive of the BLT dana desa. And then we have like the mechanism how to determine the number of the BLT, the percentage of the BLT dana desa from the village funding. One is the calculation method to determine the number of direct cash assistance beneficiaries is by following the formula. If the village has received the village funding less than 800 million, so BLT, the maximum BLT is 20% of the total village fund. When the village got like 800 to 1 billion, BLT is maximum 30%. If more than 1.2 billion rupiah, the maximum BLT is 35% of the total village fund. So we can say that the village funds is about 30% of the village fund will be used for the BLT dana desa. And then the village fund direct and then the disbursement is carried out monthly by the village government using a cashless method. This is the beginning actually why we promote the cashless method in distributing of the BLT, because we try to minimize like the moral hazard when the people distribute the money, because we all of us knows when the people get the benefit from someone, we always give something to someone, and that we call it maybe gratification. But the problem is coming in when we introduce cashless or not. Is very many regions complain it's very difficult. So finally we issue like relaxation methods, so we cannot also giving or distribute the BLT through the cash method. And then the duration on amounts of the BLT is 900,000 rupiah per household monthly, and then giving within 3 months. And but we just issue the other regulation due to maybe the COVID-19 still maybe still is very long, so the BLT is extended into 3 months, but the amounts of the funding is reduced by half. So per household will get 300,000 rupiah monthly. And then now I would like maybe giving like the performance of the BLT until June 11, 2020. That's village fund. That's about 60% of the 60,000 villages. More than 60,000 villages already dispersed, already distribute the BLT. But the latest data today, because every day I monitoring about this the distribution of the BLT. Nowadays we already about 68,000 villages, more than 68,000 villages already distribute of the village of the BLT. So it means it's about 90% of the villages already distribute the BLT for the household. We call it as keluarga penerima manfaat, the beneficiary household. So I would like also give like some issue that's of the about more than 6 million people, more or close to 7 million people poor household, which that cover is about more than 1.3 beneficiary who lost their job. And then also I think maybe it's also is very important, is about 27 a woman who are the head of the family receive a BLT. We call it as perempuan kepala keluarga. This is and then also about this is like a social. How about the economic impact? The economic impact is also the problem is also the impact for the COVID-19. So government introduced also like we call it as a program padat karya tunai, yeah, cash for works, yeah. That's actually is by providing a work for the people. So from working, they will receive like the wage, the salary that can be used for the family purposes. So the village cash for work, actually there are four principles. Village cash for work activities utilize natural resources, applied technology, innovation, and human resources. Workers are prioritized for the poor families, unemployed, and other marginalized community members. And then wage payment is given daily, and the percentage of the wage should be bigger than other components of the working. Such for instance, is for the materials. Yeah, and then of course should be applied safe distancing among workers when they work through the village cash for work. We call it padat karya tunai desa. This is this is I mean that I can also give like the data about village fund allocation for village cash for work. As June 11, that's a village allocation for cash for work is more than it's about 1.3 trillion rupiah. So it's about 5%. And then this is the other components is about how about wage amount. Wage amount is about 27%. Non-wage is still very high, is 73 million rupiah. But I mean that, ladies and gentlemen, that's I know that's as all of us knows that no one guarantee when COVID-19 will be end. So that's why if we calculate, for instance, from the village funding, the village funding for the BLT is in the beginning is about 30%, and extended into 3 months by the half. So it means about 45% of the village funding will be used for the BLT. So the rest can be used for the other economic activities through the program cash for work. So I mean, this is when the COVID-19 striking Indonesia, many people, many unemployed people coming back to the villages. So I think this is a big opportunity for the villages. If the villages is very wise to utilize the rest of the village funding on 2020, I believe it can also create a lot of activities that can make the village work. The village is to be more active, and then also give can make the for the people stay longer in the villages. Okay, finally, if I would like also, before I close my presentation, ladies and gentlemen, of course, when we introduce, when we implement of the BLT Dana Desa, there are a lot of people very curious, and then also complain, and then also many times also I means that's giving like information about the moral hazard, etc. So I'm sorry I'm not exposed in this presentation. Actually, we also provide from the call center that we provide in our ministries. The call center is 15,040, and then also from our system from Sipemandu, we receive about 2,000 complaints regarding of the village BLT Dana Desa. So from the complaints, we try to verification, and then also if maybe the problem is a big indication for the moral hazard, we also make a cooperation with the national police and then Attorney General to monitoring this, and then also to handling the complaint from the people. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Bapak Anwar Sanusi. What a great, interesting explanation. Very concise and very clear, and also very practical, from a very practical point of view. Thank you, Bapak Anwar Sanusi. So now we would like to move to the next presentation, which is we have heard the perspective of the government, how the government is not silent. Government is doing something, and now we would like to hear from the perspective of the academic, which is in here we have Professor Gunawan Sumodiningrat. Professor Gunawan is a current professor in Gadjah Mada University, one of the prominent university in Indonesia, of course. Professor Gunawan attained his Ph.D. in Agricultural and Applied Economics from the University of Minnesota, United States, in 1982, and his master is Master of Economics in Econometrics, was achieved from Thammasat University, Thailand, in 1977, and then of course previously Pak Gunawan received his bachelor degree from Gadjah Mada University itself. So
banyak rame ini.
Now we would like to hear the academic perspective of the developed Indonesia from rural area for 30 minutes. Please welcome Professor Gunawan Sumodiningrat.
Pak Rido, you hear me? Bisa dengar Pak Rido?
Loud and clear.
Baik Pak Rido. Yes, thank you very much for you preparing my presentation. Please set up my presentation. I should appreciate for the invitation of this conference. Just excellent, just right time. Right time why this is on the pandemic and also for the national and international situation which is very uncertain, VUCA situation. Before that, I should appreciate to Pak Sekjen, Pak Anwar Sanusi, not only because the same alumni from Gadjah Mada, but he is very excellent and also he is continue our concept, my personal concept, start from the Impres Desa Tertinggal and now becoming Dana Desa. Very excellent. Before I start, I have to noted 5 points from Mr. Anwar Sanusi, which was very, very excellent. I appreciate the government and the government respond very positive on the call that the pandemic is giving a blessing in disguise. Blessing in disguise because we can, with the new normal, with the new method, we can do our best. Before I go to that, my slide, the second, I should appreciate today is the 22nd June of 2020. Yesterday, just a birthday of my college friend, my junior, my president, Pak Joko Widodo. Happy birthday, Pak Joko Widodo. I hope this seminar is a gift from Stan to Mr. President and a gift from Minister of Village to the President. I hope this becoming a national movement back to village. Very important because as Mr. Sanusi mentioned, not many people understand what is the village. I feel as an academician, I feel very sad. Why we stay in the village, why we don't understand what is a village is. So, congratulations to Mr. President, Pak Joko Widodo, 21st June of 2020. And I hope this seminar will become a book and give to the President. This is a stage how to go back to the village. Second, Pak Anwar Sanusi mentioned, the most difficult is coordination and the data. I will show later on my presentation why we feel that it's very difficult. Number one is coordination among pentahelix, among the academician, businessmen, community, government, and other institutions.
Apparently, Professor Gunawan has a technical issue currently, so we would like to wait for a while. Thank you.
Ini bandwidth-nya harus ditingkatkan. Baik, saya akan berjalan secara cepat ya, karena lebih baik nanti kita diskusi daripada kita menyampaikan presentasi saya yang nanti bisa dibaca di buku saya. Yang appreciate that this The seminar is very excellent. Congratulations to Stan for the Dies Natalis. And I say that the pandemic is blessing disguise because we come back to nature, back to village. Ya, saya baca ini saja, Pak. I read this question. This my presentation is as answering the meeting organizer. One, what does the COVID-19 mean for Indonesia rural development? I say that it's a blessing in disguise. Because blessing in disguise, what is blessing in disguise? We come back to nature, back to normal. What is normal? Normal is everybody has to do ourselves, doing the best to make happy, doing the fit in rural development. Very, very good explanation from the Pak Anwar. Pak Anwar mentioned very much that the president, the government responsive very well. I should say that strengthen the people empowering. And the third will answer that what will the significant challenge aspect of rural development on the COVID-19? Mindset change. Not change except ourselves. COVID, there is no virus, antivirus. So we don't know when the virus, rasa karsa. We start from there. We confident that we can solve our problem. We can against the virus from ourselves. That the immune, self-immune, bioethics energy from the God, human life. That's a mindset change. And then what is the measure? The measure in the pandemic is not only a problem of this country. There's a problem everywhere in the world. Even the big country, all the country, that they cannot solve it. It's my God will, atas kehendak Tuhan Yang Maha Esa. The God will. So, number one is aware. Aware, who am I? Aware how we solve the problem. We cannot solve the problem unless ourselves join together. And village combine together becoming sub-district, kecamatan. Kecamatan dan kecamatan join together becoming kabupaten. Kabupaten join together becoming province. Province and province join together becoming Negara Kesatuan Republik Indonesia. Indonesia join together with other countries becoming the world. World and world becoming universe. That's the most important awareness. So, COVID-19 is a blessing in disguise. Back to nature, back to the God, ketuhanan yang Maha Esa, kemanusiaan yang adil dan beradab. Together, cooperation, gotong royong, persatuan. When we cooperate, gotong royong, cooperation, togetherness, and we find happiness. That's awareness. It's very important. The measure is awareness, cooperation. But the awareness and cooperation has to be implemented in nabung, employment, income, saving. Saving we create becoming capital accumulation becoming investment, investment becoming the new technology and becoming the source of growth. I'm sorry, please come to my class or read my book. My book is Membangun Indonesia dari Desa, and also the Peta Jalan BUMD Sukses. That's 2 books. And the fourth that I will mention here, the fourth is how should you predict the implementation of the new normal in the rural and its impact on rural development. I consider very, very optimistic. Very optimistic. The key is what? Trust. Trust yourself, trust the God, trust your leader. Trust your leader. Start the leader from the village. Start the leader from the kecamatan. Start the leader from kabupaten. Trust the leader province. Percaya kepada Presiden Jokowi. That's the only president in Indonesia now. So we have trust this one. Optimistic. With gotong royong. Kerja sama. Gotong royong is diligent, kerja keras. Later Professor Su will mention about small undong. The key is small undong is 3. Self-help, cooperation. Diligent, self-help, cooperation. That is gotong royong. So this is the conclusion of my presentation. I will go fast, 5 minutes to 10 minutes, explaining PowerPoint. Okay? Next, please. This is the goal of government of Indonesia. The goals of Republik Indonesia. Mentioning on the preamble pembukaan Undang-Undang Dasar 45. Nah, the preamble is saying that number 1, the country is protect whole Indonesia. The welfare, the prosperity of the society is the target of the government. It is mentioned in the preamble pembukaan. Intellectual, cipta, rasa, karsa. And the fourth is contribute to the peace in the nation, menjaga ketertiban dunia. There's a goals of Indonesian government. Okay, next slide, please. This is a problem of the COVID. COVID, like mentioned by the Secretary, Pak Anwar Sanusi mentioning, very difficult, becoming trouble, disrupt every life, not only in Indonesia, all over the world. 3 problems. Because unemployed, we have no incomes. If there is no income, becoming poor. When we are poor, we different. We unequal. Once the rich still remain the rich, and the poor getting poor. The next slide. What is the role of the village development during the COVID? Next, please. The role is very important. That's village becoming the last resort. In the big city, there is no employment. The economic stuck, the social stuck, even the government stop. The government can do nothing because the big company close, lockdown. No company work, when tax stop, national income stop. But I don't say that. So pity to my government. The big companies stop. No activities, no tax. And the second, the source of government income is from the badan usaha milik negara, nation, state enterprise. But state enterprise also stop. So the second source is also stop. So the key is back to nature. Only the people can survive the country with employment, income, growth. Employment, income, saving, investment, technology. Where is the people? People is in the village. So the village becoming the last resort of the employment creation, except receive all the unemployment back to the village. So the COVID pandemic may add up. Hello.
Yeah, Professor Gunawan.
Yeah, sorry. Hello.
Yeah, it might help us to listen to your voice if maybe you turn off the video.
Yeah.
So,
yes. Okay.
Yeah, your voice will be clearer.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. I have a problem with the internet. I have a problem with the internet here. Yeah. Next. It's continuous government response on rural development. Constitution.
Professor Gunawan.
Long time ago. The problem is the change the government, the change ministers, the change regulations. So the people in the village confused which direction will be followed. So this time, the village development fund has to come back to the normal. New normal. Normal, but new. Normal, what is normal? Eat what you grow what you eat. You produce, you consume. Menghasilkan apa yang dinikmati, menikmati apa yang dihasilkan. That's a natural mechanism. That's a market mechanism. When the natural mechanism and market mechanism combine together, becoming constitutional mechanism. Mekanisme konstitusi. The mechanism konstitusi becoming the law, undang-undang desa. So I suggest very strong to stand Sekolah Tinggi Administrasi Negara to make this conclusion. Continuous government response on rural development. And I suggest, starting now, we have a national movement back to the village. But this is the political science. Say, always mention back to the village as communist. No, this is academic, rational, theoretical, empirical. That's my class in philosophy. I teach philosophy of the life of Indonesia. Start from IDT and Pres Desa Tertinggal, the instruction of the president to empower the people. This is the first time in the world. In the world, there is no empowerment to the people. Only Indonesia in 1993, the Impres Desa Tertinggal. Impres number 5, 93. I suggest Pak Tanda Setia, Pak Moderator, take this my suggestion. Take this my suggestion. Continuous government response on rural development start from Impres Desa Tertinggal becoming PNPM, National Program for People Empowerment. Yes. Ya ini ya, Pak. Nah, the fourth is the rule regulation of life, Undang-Undang Dasar 45. And the fourth is environment of life. And the fifth,
Prof Gunawan, suaranya terdengar terputus-putus, Prof.
Halo,
Ya.
use my second gadget.
Ya, mungkin Prof kalau bisa videonya dimatikan saja, Prof, supaya sinyalnya fokus ke audionya, Prof.
Bapak pakai yang satunya bisa enggak?
Tetap terputus-putus, Pak.
Oke, ya.
Videonya
Bapak
dimatikan
yang satunya
saja.
bisa enggak? Bapak yang satunya. Sudah bisa. Bisa. Aduh, sayang.
Mungkin Profesor Gunawan
Bisa sekarang.
bantu videonya bisa dimatikan saja, Pak.
Matikan video ya.
Ya, nah sekarang.
Oke.
Ya.
Apa ngikutin slide saya? Udah, the fourth slide ya. I think I will go fast. Okay, this one, the four national basic concept, Pak, or the 4 konsensus dasar bangsa. This is the key. Bisa dengar, Pak? Bisa dengar ya?
Jelas, Pak. Sangat jelas.
Oke. Siap. Oke, baik. Saya mengikuti Bapak. The next slide. The next slide is, this is what Pak Sekjen mentioned. The law number 6, 1914 on the village funds. The village fund have to be understood. That's a basic to implement the 4 national basic consensus of life. So we have to start from there. 4 national basic consensus of life. And then interpret it to the goals of village development. That is people welfare, quality of life, and poverty eradication. That's very good explanation from Pak Anwar. I appreciate Pak Anwar. Thank you very much, Pak Anwar. You continue in the real development, rural development. And the objective is to strong and develop the self-reliance and the democratic village. That is gotong royong. Gotong royong in the international language is self-reliance, democratic, strong leadership, efficient, hard work, diligent, self-reliant, democracy. Professor Musu will mention that. Last year I went to Small Undong. And I learned that just exactly the same. We use Bahasa Indonesia. Korea use the Korean language and English. And the scope of the village development is, number 1 is basic needs. So everybody has to be able to produce themselves. The second is infrastructure development. The third is local economic potency. And the fourth is natural and environment resources. And the target is the sustainable development. Next, please. Very good. I didn't contact with Pak Anwar, but I can read what Anwar mentioned. This is what Pak Anwar mentioned in the long explanation. I summarize this. The village development approach is synergy between bottom-up mechanism and top-down mechanism. The key is bottom-up mechanism. From the people, by the people, to the people. That's bottom-up mechanism. And the top-down mechanism, the government is only giving the embracing, giving umbrella to the village. Don't give too many instructions. Make a minimum instruction. President Jokowi has already mentioned, reduce any regulation. Less regulation is the best. Just give one regulation. Kerja, untung, nabung. Employment, income, growth. Finish. Employment, income, growth. Finish. If they can create employment, create income, create growth, the duty of the government finish. The government is only a regulators. So the village fund, village development fund has to be directed to that area. To the area to create employment, create income, create growth. I will give you example later. Next, this is village development fund. Village development fund is a central translation, central transfer government to the people. Please be careful. Don't give money before the people knows what the money is used for. PLT itu berbahaya yang disampaikan oleh Pak, yang mentioned by the Anwar. PLT becoming bantuan langsung telas, bantuan langsung tewas, because they don't know how to use the money. PLT has only been given to the people when the people understand what it's money for. Money for basic needs to eat. The second, money for creating employment. The third, money to make saving for growth. If they have understand that, give it the money to the people. More money is better. But the people doesn't understand what the money from, finish. The money is becoming moral hazard. Because they don't know. The people doesn't know. The pamong, the local people doesn't know what the money for. And the Kepala Dinas is also doesn't know what the money for. And the coordination, like Pak Anwar mentioned, no coordination in the local world, particularly during a pandemic. Before pandemic, no good coordination. Now pandemic, no one will take care. No one eager to go to the village. Work from home. Work from home. How can the people in the village work from home? They have to go to the field. They have to go to sawah, harus kerja. Who will feed the people? Mindset change. Next. This one. Answering the second question. Second question, what is the measure of government responsibility? The challenge, the getting ready for the second wave. It's very, very dangerous. Second wave is very dangerous. So that, to make this dangerous, please come back to the 4 national basic consequence of life. 4 konsensus dasar bangsa. From concept to implementation. So now I work together with Pak Tanda Setia, Pak Setia. I work together with Sinkor, Pak Rudi, with the new path of Badan Usaha Milik Desa. The next slide is the interpreting Pancasila rural development. Next letter, Pak, I want to mention, this is Pancasila P4 nih. This is for P4 training, but I should not mention. But the most important is belief in God, human, nationalism, democracy, social justice. The ultimate concept is the welfare for the people through production, income, saving. Kerja, untung, nabung. That's in the bahasa, the economic terminology is the inclusive development. Next. Inclusive development. This is how will you predict the implementation of the new normal in rural and impact on the rural development? Optimistic. We have to interpret Pancasila is the way of life. On the name of God, I follow the God's will. How? Cooperation, gotong royong, musyawarah dan mufakat. The result is happiness. In economic terms, I use it as new normal, structural change by nature. Structural change starts from the people, individual people, personal. We have to change ourselves. How? Employment, income, saving. Saving as a source of growth. It's a very simple idiom, but it's very, has to be implemented. Kerja untuk nabung. This is the spirit of small undang. Hard work, diligence, self-help, cooperation. This is gotong royong. Gotong royong has to be used as a self-help, diligence, cooperation. Next. This is a structural change. Start from agriculture, becoming manufacturers, and then to services. In our work, on the words, my book and Pak Rudi's book, please read carefully. 1 person, 1 product. 1 village, 1 product. 1 village, 1 corporation. This is mindset change. See, everybody has to have a product. What is a product? Physical product and financial product. That is a saving. Everybody has to be saving. 1 person, 1 product is only not physical product, but financial product. When the physical product combined together, gotong royong, becoming 1 village, 1 product. 1 village, 1 product is saving. Save. Bukan koperasi, but corporation.
We are currently waiting for Professor Gunawan to be...
This is a concept of small undang in Indonesia. The concept of small undang is diligence, self-help, cooperation. Start from ourselves. Start from individual. Start from community. Start from village. So, I will start with the village, the Guasari Village Development Initiative. Next slide, please. This is my conclusion. We start from scratch, from sampah, garbage. It's only garbage. Pak Tanda Setia, please, Pak Tanda, this is my project. Next Wednesday and Thursday, I will have a training to the local leader to manage their garbage to become garbage becoming income. So we will have the people environment back to nature. That's what I appreciate this seminar. This seminar is excellent, Pak Tanda. Congratulations to Stan. Indonesia dari pinggiran. Start from the pinggiran. Apa pinggiran? Pinggiran means the people who left behind. the poor people, the neglected people, the sick people. Start from there. Make the change. Waste becoming recycle, recycle becoming income. No one think about this. How much money you spend to collect your garbage? But this one, garbage is money. Garbage becoming fertilizers. Garbage becoming product. Garbage becoming many products. So I start from Guwasari Training Center. Pak Rudi, hello Pak Rudi, on Wednesday and Thursday, we will have training in Guwasari. I will train 15 selected pamong. Halo Pak Fasa, Pak Lurah, Pak Care. Halo Pak Lurah, Pak Care, Guwasari. Pak Care, oh, he listened. He joined in this group. Pak Care, Guwasari, Pak Bupati, Pak Arsono, Cipto Roso Karso dengan kerja untung nabung. Income saving, employment income growth, start from individual community. Second, becoming the development values. And then, becoming next one. Here's the last presentation saya. My presentation, the real one, the key what? The key is of taker who responsible for the product. The responsible of the product. Waste becoming welfare. I have a friend who guarantee of me, Pak Gunawan, all the product from the village I will buy. So the garbage don't have to go to the tempat pembuangan akhir. The garbage only stay in the village. We will collect the garbage. We divide 3 garbages. One is organic garbage, becoming fertilizers. Second, unorganic garbages, becoming plastics. And the plastic is made to the pralon pipe. And the third, other products. That's my conclusion. Mindset change with the COVID. So the COVID destruction, but also blessing. Musibah membawa berkah. From waste to the well.
It seems like Professor Gunawan is waiting to reconnect it. We're going to wait for a little while because this is also the last 2 slides.
Baik Pak, maaf Pak, Pak Moderator, sorry Pak Moderator. Terima kasih Pak. Mohon maaf atas semua ketidaknyamanan.
Terima kasih.
Pak Tanda, terima kasih Pak. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much.
Very sorry Pak. I'm sorry for the difficulties. Yeah.
A very interesting discussion and presentation from Professor Gunawan to bring us the perspective back to our core value, our ideology, which is Pancasila, and how it's all related to the current issue right now. Now, we're going to jump on the last presentation. Professor Sojin Kwang, the professor from Gachon University in South Korea. So he is currently a professor in Gachon University. He attained his bachelor, master, and doctoral degree from one of the prominent university, a very well-known one in South Korea, namely Seoul National University. And Professor So Jun Kwang, he has spent his career both in not only in academic side, but also from government and professional sides. In university, he had an important roles as directors for several important positions, and also the dean in Keuangan University, the former name of Gachon University. And he has led several academic organizations as well. For example, as the president of Korean Association for Local Government Studies in 2007 until 2009. And he was also the president of the Korean Regional Development Association in 2014 until 2018. And Professor So was also the president of the famous Korea of Sumodiningrat Global League, where 46 countries are joining the league. He was also actively involved in international cooperation organization projects, such as with UNISA, UNECA, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNISCAP, the United Nations Economic and Social Commissions for Asia and the Pacific, and also KOICA projects, Korea International Cooperation Agency. So Professor So is the right person to present this issue, and we would like to hear more from Professor So. So Professor So, please welcome Professor So in the next 30 minutes explaining us about South Korea perspective.
Okay, I present my PPT. Okay, Mr. Moderator, Dr. Rido, Parulian, Panjaitan. Thank you so much for your inviting me as a speaker in this session. And I've been very interested in two VIP's presentation. And I have learned so much from them. Let me present COVID-19 situation in Korea in brief. The first confirmed case occurred on 20th January this year in Korea, and after that you can see the figure 1 like this. You can see here, like this, the confirmed cases with COVID-19 increased steeply here the end of March this year, and after that, and peak. And yesterday, just only 17 confirmed cases occurred in Korea. Actually, but figure 2 and 3 showed us COVID-19 situation in Korea. Shows us the regional disparities responding or reflecting regional environments. It means that there might be some limitations for the central government to cope with COVID-19 at national level. So it's fine. We can say that we better start from village level. In other words, community level to protect people's safety and then to keep the peaceful environment at the community level. And also, the Korea Sumodiningrat Center has more than 2 million members, including Sumodiningrat leaders. And then when facing COVID-19 in Korea, Sumodiningrat leaders and members joined the public team to prevent the spread of COVID-19 to other reasons. It means that at the initial stage of COVID-19, the regional response was very, very important to stop the spread of COVID to other regions. As you see in figure 2 and in figure 3, the confirmed cases with COVID-19 concentrated in specific region. Okay, is why local governments should play very important role at the initial stage. Of course, the central government should play very important role to keep boundary free from COVID-19 from other countries. But the most important role we expecting is the local government's role and then the civil society's role to keep their living conditions and environment free from COVID-19. So this COVID-19 gave us very, very important lesson. We should start from the individual level and family level and then community level to keep our living conditions free from COVID and then other diseases, including natural disasters. In the end, the new coronavirus epidemic shows us a wide gap between countries and regions, meaning that the response should also vary from country to region. Nevertheless, it can be said that no country or region is free from the spread of infectious diseases such as COVID-19. In particular, if the spread of infectious diseases is concentrated in specific country or region, it is very difficult for even countries and regions within well-equipped medical facilities to handle the situation alone. Is why we should say that we need to cooperate each other to protect the COVID-19 spread to other regions. The spread of infectious diseases in certain countries or regions will become a threat to neighboring countries and regions. Therefore, let me say that it is necessary to set up or to establish a kind of tentatively naming International Joint Fund for Infectious Diseases like IMF or etc. This kind of joint fund can cope with crises such as the new coronavirus case and to secure a global community joint means to respond efficiently from the outset in the event of any infectious disease. And then actually coronavirus, new coronavirus gave us great impacts on our economy in Korean society. You can see the impacts through table 1, consumer price index. Consumer price index shows us some differences between agro products and manufacturing products. You know where agro product belongs to our basic needs. So somewhat the constant comparing with manufacturing products. But the consumer price index in manufacturing products falling down continuously after COVID-19. You can see table 1 like this. And then you can see the consumer price index by months through figure 4. And then Also, overall economic conditions are reflected in the stock index in capital economies. Table 3 shows the stock index since December 2019, when COVID began to spread in Korea. Stock prices began to plunge last year on concerns over shrinking economic activity, but they showed the lowest level in March this year, with expectations for a post-COVID-19 economic environment increasing. So-called small investors began to purchase many stocks, showed the signs of recovery from April this year. And then you see also unemployment rate at national level increased, but the difference might be between urban areas and rural areas. And then we need some paradigm shifts to cope with COVID-19. The spread of social distance keeping caused by Corona-19 included indirect consumption growth through online shopping malls transactions, resulting in a change in consumption patterns. In Korea, online consumption increased 18.7% from last year. And on the other hand, Korea's GDP growth in the first quarter of this year was minus 1.4%. It's severe in our society. This sign indicated an overall short slowdown in industrial production. In particular, the circular causation structure of the local economy, which used to operate freely within a country, is showing a new aspect as human and physical exchanges are restricted due to COVID-19 in this case. As in figure 4, you can see the linkage between the local economy and the national economy, and the virtuous circle began to be broken due to the restrictions on the movement of mobile production factors such as labor forces, capital, information, and technology. So in figure 4, the comparative advantage, in other words, sharing of special functions through interregional competition, is facing a paradigm reversal, where the outflow from the region, the inflow into the region are limited due to COVID-19, and returning to the self-contained economy at community level, local level. It's a strange, even though we are facing globalization, free trade, I mean. This paradigm shift means that again, the local economy based on physical scale is eventually changing into regional economy based on human scale, even though we cannot beat others with face-to-face. Therefore, this COVID-19 makes it important for local governments to be able to fully mobilize and operate their own internal resources without taking into account the outflow from other regions and the inflow from our regions to other regions of production factors. Since human economic activities interacting with the economic space, shown in figure 9 in my paper, regional efforts by itself to create a competitive economic ecosystem are becoming more and more important. In the same vein, it is necessary to establish an economic space that can utilize local local resources. Good governance at the local level must be established to fully mobilize and operate local resources. In this context, as COVID-19 is involved, first in the small approach, the former President, Professor Gunawan Sumodiningrat, thank you so much for his reminding me of Sumodiningrat speech again to cope with natural disasters and then diseases. Like figure 8, you can see in my paper, like figure 10, I made a mistake to numbering the figure and the table. Just figure 10 shows the self-contained rural development approach based on Sumodiningrat experiences. Residents decided their one priority order of project necessary to improve their quality of life in their villages, and had to mobilize their own resources because government supports at the time were very shortage of what they decided to do for their common goods at village level. So residents themselves took ownership of the project results and then did their best to maintain those common facilities they constructed by themselves. And then when facing COVID-19, small leaders and members joined the public health team to prevent the spread of COVID-19 at village level by themselves, for themselves, of themselves. These performances might be originated from the small spirit, such as diligence, self-help, and cooperation all together. Is the best way to be better off all together in the near future. You know well about that. Figure 10, you can see the proper role sharing between the public sector and the private sector. And then tells us what the central government should do to support village people's efforts to be better off all together at the community level, and especially to cope with this kind of disasters or disease like COVID-19 at village level. Without protecting their own village by themselves, it would cause very dangerous situations to other neighboring villages or communities, or to all over the country and to all over the world. It means that we should start from the village level to protect ourselves or to raise our quality of life. And then the efforts of the residents were evaluated fairly, and those villages with excellent project performance were able to develop faster with additional incentives from the public sector, like this. Okay, so let me say that this COVID-19 situation will cause some paradigm shift in the field of community development. It is said that COVID-19 is not a sudden crisis in human society, but just the beginning of a new normal that will always be there in the future. This new normal era calls for a rural development strategy that can meet the basic human needs first, even though we cannot do something with face-to-face contact. The economic system centered on physical measures such as capital, technology, and labor is shifting to people-centered economic system. Therefore, it is cautiously expected that the fourth industrial revolution path, which had been approached based on the technology paradigm, such as artificial intelligence, will shift to human-centered due to COVID-19. Agricultural production will be also disrupted as the way urban resident labor cannot go into the rural village even in harvest seasons. So farmers cannot harvest their crops in time. This is why rural farmers and rural people began to avoid living in agricultural rural societies. So now, in 2018, the ratio of rural people to all the people and national labor may be decreased to below than 5% in Korea, just around 4.1, okay? Yeah. So you can see in figure 11, the ratio of rural population to total population in Korea. So this year maybe around 4 point. Let me conclude my presentation. I think that COVID-19 might disturb our living style, but COVID-19 cannot stop our desire for the future, for the next generations to be better off altogether. I mean that improving or raising quality of life in our society. So even though COVID-19 cannot stop the efforts of human society to be better off in the future, natural disasters and disease occur in certain areas and have different regional impacts. However, improving people's political life is the common hope and ultimate purpose of urban development and rural development. The traditional means of realizing this objective are facing new challenges in the wake of the COVID-19. In other words, it is time for human society to choose different paths toward the same destination. In other words, our ultimate destination focuses on raising quality of life. This is why protecting the safety nets of residents from disasters and diseases on the site is becoming more and more important than ever. These regional development strategies are summarized as follows. The first may be change from linking governance system. Linking governance system actually is based on role sharing between the central government and local governments, this kind of linking governance system can be called as a vertical, from the top to the below, like this. But this kind of vertical governance system should be changed to cooperative governance among local governments. Cooperative governance can be called horizontal among local governments. The diffusion process of COVID-19 shows the need for the role of central and local government to be redefined. In the end, border management by the central government is important also to prevent and manage the spread of infectious diseases such as COVID-19. But it is more important to establish horizontal and cooperative governance to jointly cope with local phenomena among local government near to living sites of residents. Infectious disease prevention with regard and management should be approached from a good governance perspective with regard to democratic practices in the name of local autonomy through local government's role. In addition, governance needs to be approached as a new frame in relation to the safe needs of residents. In other words, in order to achieve result or effects of governance as a legitimate procedure, one must have the ability to practice. Without governance, without good governance, in other words, unless all the people participate in the common project, those goals at community level cannot be practiced and achieved. I mean, this COVID-19 provides a very, very important opportunity to verify which governance forms were practical and effective. This paper, I mean that I say the approach, how to divide the roles of central and local governments appropriate for managing infectious diseases, and suggest two types of governance, such as figure 12. Yeah, figure 12 shows the linking governance vertically from the central government to local governments, and the bridging governance among local governments for regional development. The former strategies in the field of rural development in Korea, I mean, focused on linking governance system. I mean that what should be done by the central government and what should be done by the local government and what should be done by civil society for the common goods at village level. Now, with facing COVID-19, the paradigm should shift from the linking governance system to bridging governance system. I think so. And because COVID-19 situation showed us these are differences. The confirmed cases concentrated in specific regions and then no spread in other regions like this. Then the central government had some limitations to cope with the regional differences. Okay, so it's why we used to say that this regional government or local government should cope with the regional differences, and then at national level. Okay, so you can see in figure 12 the difference between linking governance system and bridging governance system for regional development, including rural development, I mean. And then effective prevention and management of infectious disease requires traditional vertical governance system. Also, we need linking governance structure and horizontal governance system to prevent our village first, and the next we can worry about neighboring villages people, and then after that national level. Okay, so approach from governance point of view, such as figure 12, shows that the central government, border management, and inter-regional coordination are important to prevent and manage the spread of infectious diseases such as COVID-19, but cooperative relationships such as facility sharing, workforce sharing, and information sharing among neighboring local governments are more important. Okay? The new coronavirus crisis has provided an opportunity to transform the competing relationship between central and local governments into cooperative partnerships toward a common enemy. I mean, the enemy here, a new coronavirus. This response to COVID-19 is a good example for the public sector to pay attention to collaborative bridging governance in addition to linking governance system. And the second, Professor Gunawan already mentioned about that Beijing its approach again through decentralization policy. When we were facing COVID-19, the COVID-19 crisis teaches the lesson that the reason for an individual's existence should be realized first. The reason for the existence of an individual is only possible when the most basic of the 5 stages of human desire would be satisfied in Maslow in 1943. You know where? Maslow in 1943 identified 5 stages of motivation such as physiological need, and then next a desire for safety, and third stage a desire for affection and belonging, and the fourth a desire for self-esteem, and finally a desire for self-realization, to describe aspects of human motivation in general. In other words, all human actions and desires for them belong to the way of life to maximize the possibility of an individual existence. After all, the reason for the existence of the public sector, such as governmental structure and functions, and the need and the delivery system of public services, belong to the means to enhance the existence of individual entities. The new coronavirus crisis soon illustrated the public sector's response to the new coronavirus infection is expected to lead to at least the proper division of roles between the central government and the local government, or compliance with decentralization that cannot protect the public safety from infectious diseases. This business approach can be practiced more easily by decentralization policies, in other words, by devolving the powers or authorities of the central government to local governments. The third, let me say, we'd better start from building smart villages in our village. Smart village can be defined, in my opinion, as a self-contained, sustainable economy based on village level. COVID-19 pandemic situation raises the need to shift from gross national economic growth strategies to each community development strategies. Each community development strategies can emphasize the self-sufficiency of the community units. In other words, the focus is on building smart village or city, and then the smart village can easily cope with the future uncertainty in the future, and focus on community resilience free from infectious diseases and natural disasters. Here, the objective of SMART means the local resilience to adapt and evolve on its own to new environmental changes. The element included in the traditional SMART village or environmental quality, information and communication technology, green space, human scale, and sustainability. This is all, these keywords were originated from various special policies shown in table 6, like smart growth, new urbanism, new mobility, and compact city, and green city. You know well about the concept of each terminology. And then finally, let me say that the COVID-19 pandemic situation shows even those high technologies based on physical scale cannot replace human scale. Yeah, and then here we realized with COVID-19 that the human scale would be most important in our living style. Especially, there will be the high possibility for rural society to be more competitive in high-touch industries such as networking, agro-production with human speed by storytelling or organic farming, and then handcrafts like this. This lifestyle show, you see figure 11. Figure 11 shows new lifestyle in smart village in the near future. This lifestyle shown in figure 11 will increase the possibility of an individual's existence from diseases and disasters such as COVID-19 and climate change, and enhance resilience to cope with future shocks. However, figure 11 overlooks energy conservation and the resource circulation systems, and so it is necessary to consider these challenges further. Thank you so much for your attention on my presentation, and thank you so much again for your providing me this precious opportunity to learn Indonesian cases. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor So. We'd love to have a future meeting face-to-face in a more interesting seminar, hopefully, in Indonesia.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very interesting presentation from Professor So, giving us a perspective how the South Korea have a great cooperation among the local governments. Not only central governments, but also cooperation among local governments that is being underlined by Professor So with as a very important role of the local government. Now, we do have a question and ask time for question and answers session for 30 minutes. So I would like to open this session through two media. So first questions, I would like to give the chance for someone that would like to ask the question lively through raise the hand, just through your Zoom, just press the raised hand, and then I will let you to have the questions, and then other questions will be in through the chat. So I've seen Bapak Rudy Hendra has raised his hand, so I will give the time for Bapak Rudy to ask the question. Please, Bapak Rudy, short and clear.
Okay.
Please introduce yourself and from your institution.
Okay. Thank you for this great opportunity. My name is Rudy Hendra Prasetya, and I work in Financial and Development Supervisory Agency as an internal auditor. I had been dealing with the Village Fund a few years ago, and I have some questions. Maybe this is the most basic purpose of Village Fund is to build Indonesia from the periphery by reaching some social justice to those who live in village. So I think that we need some clear and conspicuous linkage from the funding into everybody's welfare in the village. But sometimes I see that there is not clear guidance or not clear tracing from the fund into the output, into the outcome, and then following that onto the everyone welfare. Maybe if we take a lesson from the South Korea, may I ask to Pak Sekjen, Pak Anwar Sanusi, about is there any clear linkage between the funding into the classifications and the output of the village fund? And since I had some information about there is a fragmented information village funding, we can see the data but not the.
Boleh
Yes?
mikrofonnya dimatikan Pak Sekjen? Ya, terima kasih Pak. Silakan lanjut Pak Rudi.
Okay, thank you. We have a fragmented information in village fund. As we can see that there is no one reconciliation of the village fund budgeting from 2015 until today. So in order to get a clear vision to cope with this pandemic as the village with the role as the last resort at the aftermath of the pandemic, I think we need to get a reconciliation of those what had already happened in the village throughout Indonesia along these years. And I agree with the South Korea. The answer to the pandemic in Indonesia may be the agricultural products. So we need to get initiatives among the local governments and with the help of the a set of good and sound policies from the central government to craft the logistic and supply chain that can redistribute the local produce from one region to another, and then it can reduce the inequality, unemployment, and poverty both in regional and urban areas. So I think we need not only the instant solutions as the BLT, but we need to think to make it more sustainable. As my field experience in village fund is not quite effective in community development and community empowerment, as it only accounted up to 11% based on the World Bank Fiber Project 2017. I think, may I suggest to the government to make it more sustainable and take a lesson from the South Korea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Rudi. I think I got the main of the question. So it is for Pak Sekjen, Pak Anwar Sanusi.
Pak Sekjen, yes.
Yeah, so it's about how is the village fund could be a long-term solution, and what could be the long-term solutions aside of the short-term solution through direct cash assistance. But we will go to the next questions, and then after that, I will let all the speakers. So next questions, we have a question from Pak Dedi Mulyadi. I assume the question is for Professor So. So I will read the questions. Korea's condition is different with condition in desa or village in Indonesia. Is there any model that can be applied effectively for the policy making for increasing the welfare of the residents in the village? So this question, I assume, is for Professor So. So Pak Dedi is asking about, is there any model that can be used for or suitable to be implemented from South Korea to Indonesia? That would be the questions for Professor So. And then there is an interesting comment from Pak Lalu Henry. The comment is quite interesting. I would like to have Pak Professor Gunawan to might give an additional comment on Pak Lalu Henry comment. So I would read the comment from Pak Lalu Henry. Villages in Indonesia are very unique and multifaceted. It's totally different. Our village must understand the historical aspects of the archipelago that become the forerunner and color of our village today. Building Indonesia is not enough with technical and academic matters, but also from spiritual aspects. This is in line with what Professor Gunawan explained before. So I would like to have Professor Gunawan to might comment more on Pak Lalu comment. So we will stop here the first three. Anwar Sanusi to answer from Pak Rudy's questions. Please.
Thank you very much, Pak Rudy, and then also thank you very much, Pak Rido, and also Professor Kwang for very insightful explanation about the Korean experience for the rural development, especially during the pandemic COVID, and then also my guru, Prof. Gunawan Sumodiningrat. I would like to explain about the question from Pak Rudy, about like for the village fundings should be used in the long term, not only for the short terms. For the short term is, of course, as I explained, because the today topic is what the government policies, especially in the villages during the pandemic COVID-19. So that's why I explained about three impact of the pandemic COVID-19, and then also what the government proposed in order to solve that problem from the pandemic COVID. But in the long term, actually, we can see that the aim of the village law is how to make the village to be more resilient, lebih mandiri. So I mean, this the resilience is the ultimate goals of ours, the villages. They can be strong in terms from the economics, in terms of social, in terms of a culture, and also they can be also can practice a democratic activities in the villages. In terms, for instance, in terms of economics, we have like we would like through the village funding for the villages, they can be resilient from the economic activities. So that's why within the 5 years, next 5 years, actually we have two platforms in dealing with how to build the resilience of the villages. One is to make economic to transfer the economic activities, and the second is how to improve the human resources in the villages. Through about the economic activities, we are concerned in how to build the economic institution in the villages through the state village on enterprise, badan usaha milik desa. And then second, we also propose how to develop more like post-harvested system, like industry pasca panen, because most of the villages, they just concerned about after harvested, they just sell the product. So there is no extension about like the utility about the productivity, no added value. So that's why for the villages, they just get like a very small profit from the product. And then the third thing is we are in terms of economic, we introduce like a digital economic for the villages. Yeah, we are quite likely that of the 74,953, only about 13,000 villages doesn't have the access for the internet. This is, I think, is a good opportunity if we would like introduce like a digital economic on the villages. And then the second platform about how to improve like the human resources of the villages. We are in line with the vision of President, how to create excellent human development in the villages. Bagaimana menciptakan SDM unggul di pedesaan. So that's why nowadays, I'm on my second. I have two screens. One screen now I discuss with we have like national seminar with the Ministry of Education. We talk about the concept of the Kampus Merdeka untuk Desa, and how to enlarge, how to scale up the concept of the KKN. KKN is kuliah kerja nyata, not the other KKN. Yeah, it's the KKN is not only for 1 or 2 months. It's more than 2 months. So we extend this one. The aim of this program is how we can advise, how we can provide knowledge for the villages. This is, I think, maybe the long terms of of our vision in how to develop village. Pak Rudy, maybe you are already known also. We have like index. We call it by index Desa Membangun. And how do we evaluate our program? Because in terms of the villages, from this index, we can distinguish into 5 levels of villages: less developed, and then is less developed, and then less developed, and then developing, advanced, and the others, the highest is resilience. Sangat tertinggal, berkembang, maju, dan mandiri. This is I think indicators. And then also maybe even though the question is not to me, Pak Rido, I also would like maybe give a very short response about the question from Pak Lalu. Yeah, we have to know that the spirit of the village law is about like recognition. We have to recognize our history of the villages. So that's why in our ministry, that's next 5 years, we would like more concern about how we can develop more desa adat. Because in Indonesia, we have a lot of desa adat. And then desa adat already considered as maybe as a best managing in the village level. That's my presentation. That's my explanation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pak Anwar Sanusi. Very concise and answering the questions straight away. And I would like to invite Professor So to answer the questions from Professor Pak Dedi, asking about, do you think that you have, or South Korea have, particular model that can be implemented or adapted by Indonesia? Please.
Okay. Yep, a good question. Thank you so much. There might be some common base for all humankind to be better off all together. And then I think a sense of community, being together, living together, a sense of living together at village level will be very, very important to develop the site, our living stage, in other words, village or community, etc. And then Korean experiences originated from Semaul Undong experiences. Semaul Undong, as you know well, began to be implemented since 1970, and the Korean government adopted somehow as the national agenda for developing rural countries, first at the initial stage, but later began to be applied to other areas, including urban area and manufacturing industry and office, etc. The most important is that government stopped just only with some construction materials, and then Korean government didn't interrupt the people's decision-making process at village level, and didn't provide any guideline like this. Just only one guideline. I remember that Korean government said that those construction materials provided by Korean government couldn't be used for individual interest, private interest. Just could be used for the common good at village level. In this situation, all the people living in the same village had to be together to discuss what to do and how to do with those construction materials for their common goods. And then I remember at that time, several clans, family groups lived in the same villages, and then each family group wouldn't cooperate each other for the common good at village level at that time. But with the beginning of Semaurundong, village people had to meet together to discuss what to do and how to do with those construction materials provided by the government. In fact, this process contributed to building common base. In other words, a sense of community with people's initiatives and people's ownership for their project. And finally, they organized some kind of development committee for their village, and then they elected their representatives responsible for the project they wanted to do at village level. And then finally, governmental supports were very shortage of what village people wanted to do at village level. So village people had to mobilize their own resources and collected some money to satisfy what they decided to do. And meanwhile, a kind of governance began to be established at village level. Altogether, village people participated in decision making and then participated in the same projects for their village common goods. And then sometimes Korean government began to provide some incentives to those villages with better performances. And then this incentive system evoked village people's initiatives and ownership for their village projects. And sometimes local government and Korean central government gave precious opportunity, job opportunity, I mean, for the village people to take part in the public project with the village committee. And then those village people participating in the public project provided by Korean government, including local government, donated 50% of their wage to the village common fund. Like this, since 1970, all the Korean villages began to raise village common fund for their own project at the village level. And then they could implement some more projects for themselves, by themselves, of themselves, to be better of all the village level. And like this, village funds showed us very, very high multiplying effects because the cycle was very short at the time. Because village people had to decide what they wanted to do. I mean, in other words, with the priority order of felt wants at village level. Oh, this time building community hall first, and the next constructing the small bridging, connecting, or to go out for other reasons like this. So this process in my paper, the figure number sorry. Okay, figure number 10 means that this kind of semi-urban approach contributed to building a circular causation process with village common fund. Without village common fund, village people couldn't implement other projects they wanted to do at village level. So village common fund was very, very important to multiplying village economy at the time. So this mechanism can be applied in other situations, even in the 21st century, I think so. It's the common base for all humankind who can use the approach or mechanism to be better off in the future for all together. I think so. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor So. So the policy that can be used for Indonesia, the professor suggests Semol Undang could be one of the solutions for Indonesia to adopt. In conclusion, from Professor So, and then the last question, comment. I would like to invite Professor Gunawan just for 2. Professor Gunawan, your microphone is still off.
Yes. Oke. Ya, sudah dengar? Oke. Pak Mr. Lalu Andri, thank you very much for your kindness, understanding and listening from my side. I agree very much. Our village unique. That's why I suggest the autonomy, the real autonomy is in the lowest level, that is village. So give the people autonomy, number one. The second, I agree that to develop the people is not only academic and technical. 100% agree. That's very important, is spiritual. Spiritual is epistemologis. That's from rational, theoretical, empirical. Cipta, rasa, karsa. What you think, what you speak, what you write, you action. That's why I suggest that we have to have a training center. The training center I built at Guasari, which Pak Tanda will support us, I will focus that. So the rural development is not only technical, but spiritual development. I thank you very much, Prof. Su, that mentioned the humankind. Humankind, that's the most important. So I ask the Secretary, Pak Anwar, for the conclusion. This is excellent. The seminar has to become academic papers, such as the president as a gift, the birthday, we declare national movement back to village, membangun Indonesia dari desa, the real thing, not only euphoria, tapi action, rural development start from village, start from spiritual, cipta rasa karsa. The second, less intervention is the best. Professor Su mentioned that one. Humankind development together. That's gotong royong. Hard work, self-reliance, cooperation. That's gotong royong. The most important thing, the third one, is capacity buildings on the community. I suggest to Pak Sekjen, please TNP 2K, Tim Nasional Percepatan Penghapusan Kemiskinan. You empower there. The Minister of Village is in charge, the coordination among the ministers, from the Minister of Village, Minister of Social, Minister of Interior, Minister of Cooperative, Minister of Industry, coordinated by Minister of Village as the President from the national movement Membangun Indonesia dari Desa. The last but not least, the most important is providing facilitators. Facilitators who attach to the village development, which concentrate on humankind, gotong royong, bersama membangun bangsa. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Selamat, congratulations to stand for the anniversaries, Dies Natalis, and I hope this gift to the President Republik Indonesia 21 Juni 2020. Happy birthday, Presiden. National movement toward back to village, membangun Indonesia dari desa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Gunawan, for the closing remark from Professor Gunawan. This is very interesting. I would like to make just a short conclusion from the a very great discussion that we have. The first, yes, villages, rural, are being impacted by the virus outbreak. And then Professor Gunawan brought us the three challenges that has been impacted. First is the poverty, and then unemployment rate, and then third, the inequality ratio. This problem is always the problem, but the virus outbreak has made the problem become even more greater. So the solution for this is just like what Pak Anwar Sanusi have mentioned. The government tried to respond to the problem by having short-term solutions such as direct cash assistance atau BLT, as well as village cash forward, because like what Professor So said, the ultimate goal is the increase in quality of life. And then Professor Gunawan says how? By increasing the employment. Increasing in employment means increasing in income. Increasing in income means increasing in economic growth. So it is time now for moving from the economic system that focused on physical measures, which is capital and labor, and moved forward to a people-centered economic system. So the idea, just like what Pak Anwar Sanusi just mentioned, the government main goal is not the BLT, but more in a long-term period, the goal is how to increase the human capital in villages, in rural area. So the idea is to make the desa yang mandiri or self-contained sustainable economy based on village level, which is brought up by Professor So as well. So the discussion is related each other. The problem and the solution is there, And what is needed now is the role of the central government and the local government, not competing each other, like what Professor So said, but cooperate together in a vertical and horizontal relationship. I think that's a very conclusion from me. And now we are going to have a technical briefing, just a small, if Pak Khairun can share to us just the information about the material, this course material. It can be downloaded to the bit.ly that has been shared through the monitor. And then for those who are expecting the e-certificate, please fill up the survey until not more than 1 p.m. today. And then I'd like to inform to you also that we do have another webinar that is quite important, very important even, a seminar about the political economy of pandemic, how to move forward. We have Professor Stephen McGuire in here that will explain to us about the political economy of the pandemic